你觉得那个蔡林记的热干面怎么样？
蔡林记的没也多了。
下次再来哟。
好的。
我谢谢你啊！我要举报你，你这个电话我要举报你。
早。吃早饭了没有？
吃了。
哎，你觉得那个蔡林记那个热干面有什么特别的吗？
没什么特别，
就是差不多的。
嗯。
但是那个牌子有名啊。
它只是开成连锁的了。
是吧？这多少钱呢
6块。6块。
哦，你算我吧。
请出示付款码。入场柜收款成功，6元。
好，谢了。Well, folks, my local shopkeeper is an absolute beacon of positivity. The other day I asked them about a local temple and whether it was kind of one he'd been to, worth going to, and he just said there's going to be people everywhere. And today I asked him about Wuhan's most famous breakfast brand. They have the most famous hot dry noodles in Wuhan. And he was just like, nah, it's just a chain store now. So, despite what he says, let's go have a look and see if we can find some of Wuhan's more famous hot dry noodles. Well, folks, that's the shop.蔡林记. It's had a few kind of ups and downs throughout its history. They did the kind of business thing of expanding too fast, too many stores, and perhaps the quality of their product dropped a little bit as they just allowed every kind of Tom, Dick and Harry to open a store under their brand. But it's still, I think, known as the kind of most famous brand of hot dry noodles here in Wuhan. There's still a few people in there, so we'll go have a look and see if it's any good. 热干面吧。
好的。
听说这边的热干面很好吃啊。
还有其他的吗？
就这个。
好，这个好。
就把票。就这个。热干面。听说这边的热干面比其他的地方好吃一些。
我们蔡林记是有名的。
是吧？很有名的吧？
下次再来哟。
好的。Oh, folks, I managed to get myself a bowl. There's no seats in there, so I'm gonna have to find a place to park my butt in a hurry. This is what it looks like. It cost 1 yuan more than the kind of spots downstairs from where I'm staying. So I guess you're paying a little bit for the brand. The key with this stuff, because that doesn't look that great, the key is in the mixing. You need to mix the hell out of it first, otherwise it'll just be kind of dry and bland. Let's give it a mix. This kind of more black sesame sauce is a little bit different from my local downstairs places. So it's essentially a noodle with a sesame sauce. It's called dry because it's not really served in a soup. So it's kind of a dry dish, but you can see at the bottom there's still some flavorful sesame sauce which needs to be mixed in with the noodle to spread that flavor around. There's also like a few like little bits of either carrot, sometimes they do like turnip, and some chives by the look of things. That's more what it's supposed to look like, nice and kind of mixed up. Alright, let's try the flavor before it starts to really rain on me and make these some wet noodles. First impression is pretty good. The noodles are nice and kind of soft. The flavor has certainly gone into the noodles. It just feels a touch more sesame-y than the other places I get downstairs. They didn't put any spice in my one, so it's not spicy, which I think I kind of prefer. When I'm having a soupy noodle, I kind of prefer it with a bit of kick to it. But when it's quite dry, I find the the spicy flavor a little bit overpowering, but that's just kind of personal preference. So yeah, this is the quintessential Wuhan breakfast. Because the price is relatively cheap, you can get it anywhere. Like the downstairs of every kind of apartment complex will have a shop selling these. You can have it on the go, you can eat it in 5 minutes. A lot of people don't eat breakfast at home. They'd rather just have a bowl of this. Now, I didn't really notice it at first, but there is actually a slight spicy taste to it. Like first couple of mouthfuls, I didn't feel any spice at all. But as I'm getting kind of towards the second half of the noodles or more, yeah, there's definitely a little bit of spice in there. It's the kind of one that I think if you had zero spice tolerance, you'd probably notice it from the first mouthful. But yeah, there is like a few bits of chili in there, so that just gives it a little bit of extra kick. Well, there you go, folks. The bowl is done. You can see that any of that kind of soupy, saucy stuff that was in there as we initially started mixing it, it all got absorbed by the noodles, so the noodles really kind of suck in the flavor. Yeah, pretty good. Would I make a special trip again because I had to get on 2 different subway lines, about half an hour's worth of travel to get here and pay 1 extra kwai for the price? I don't know, probably not. Wasn't that much different, but it's certainly a good bowl of noodles, and I can tick that off my Wuhan list. I didn't come out here just to eat noodles today. With the weather a bit dodgy again, we've had rubbish luck with the weather this trip. We're gonna jump on a train and head to another one of Wuhan's kind of historic indoor sites, although it's a government site, so I would put chance of being able to use the camera at about 50-50. Those motorbikes, I thought they were kind of a thing of the past. They used to be everywhere here in Wuhan. Anytime I would be wanting to go somewhere, there'd be 10 of those guys sitting on bikes asking me, like, do you want to ride? Obviously you have to pay, but yeah, there still seem to be a few about. With all the kind of share bikes and stuff and the convenience of the subway and the buses, they seem to have been pretty much put out of business. I hardly see them around, but there's another guy over there, and there's another person who just jumped on before I turned the camera on, so yeah, those guys are still making a living somehow. I think a lot of them have become like delivery drivers for the food delivery apps. But anyway, let's head on down the street. The Chinese equivalent of Google, Baidu, tells me it might be closed between 11 and 3 for lunch, which if so means we are going to have a long wait because it's just 20 past 11 now. 是汤包吧？汤包，汤包。这边的汤包有名吗？世纪美的汤包有名啊。是哪一家的？世纪美。世纪美。对。是在这附近吗？就现在撤了，现在。哦。加了这一撤把撤掉了。哦。还有吗？它这样蛮多，我们这个找不到哪个是正宗的，都是蛮多打了它的牌子。哦。你觉得那个蔡林记的热干面怎么样？哎，蔡林记的也多了。 是连锁店吧？现在连锁店都多了。每一家不一样。每一家都不一样，口感都不一样。他找不到哪家是正宗的。正宗的，对。不知道，都打他的牌子，都是连锁。对。用他的招牌就把钱他。对。对，我去年去了襄阳，去了吃他们的襄阳牛肉面，我觉得还可以。但是我看到这里好几家写的是襄阳牛肉面，但是那个味道不一样。没那个味道。 感觉是假的，哎，对，还是当地的那一位。对，就本地人知道。他邻居这个没有时候有的还提不到别个私人的一些招牌。哦，还比他强一点，是吧？是世纪美的汤包。好，拜拜。Well, this, folks, is the spot. It is the site of where the old government sat for a while, and it's a weird one because it was a combination of the nationalists and the communists. They were working together in what was called the First United Front, because China at that time was very divided, regional warlords all holding sway over different areas of the country. Stalin was involved, pressuring both parties to work together, nationalists and the communists. they worked together to try and unify the country. But I can see there's a whole bunch of scaffolding. So I'm assuming it's closed. Let's go have a look. Yes. 闭馆了. Indeed, it's shut. I got a knack of going to places which are under some kind of renovation. Alright, well, having failed to get into that place, as always, we switched to Plan B. Plan B has got a bit more communist feel about it because there is a old site, like a, I don't want to say a mansion, but a big old house, which was the seat of where the communist guys were based at the same time as that building was being used by both parties to kind of govern from Wuhan. So yeah, it's probably going to be a little bit more red, but we'll go have a look. I get even less confidence I'll be able to film, but hey, what a beautiful street. Lovely trees, and there's a McDonald's going to be built back there. Life is good. Of all the words I would use to describe that building, selling gold, subtle is not one. There's even 3 actual girls just looking out over the crowd. Those are not mannequins, those are 3 people. Anyway, that's where you know to go buy some gold. Gold. Such a contrast. Like 200 meters back that way is the busiest shopping street in Wuhan. You can just take a side street and you're down some little alley. Oh, parking enforcement people have been active here. Parking ticket, parking ticket. Wow. Parking ticket, parking ticket, parking ticket, parking ticket, parking ticket. Damn, if you stop for here for lunch, it's gonna be an expensive bill at the end of the day. Who's that? Cree was here? You don't see a heck of a lot of graffiti in China. At least there's no just cock and balls. They've gone at least a little bit more artistic than that. And we just passed that church we went to the other day. I get the feeling that guy just got a scam phone call and told them to bugger off. Good man. That's part of the reason it was so hard for me to get a phone number here. Phone numbers you have to link to some kind of formal ID. In my case, a passport. In Chinese citizens' case, their ID card. One person, one phone number, basically. At least in this city. Other places might be different, but yeah, too many scammers. So they can't have kind of burner numbers. Right, this spot behind us, folks, is the intended destination. Kind of not the place I was planning to come to, but let's see if we're able to get in. It looks like there's barrier arms, and I feel like I'm going to need my passport, which I did bring. 你好，这个地方可以要预约吗？
对。
如果我们要身份证怎么办呢？
登个记可以。
登个记可以了是吧？
藏得着的。
啊，我知道，我知道。
就写日期，还有今天7号。7号，
对。
还有手机号码。刚刚办的手机号码我都不记得。
啊，你什么地方人？
哦，
你是哪个国家？
新西兰的。
新西兰，这写新西兰。
这可以拍照片吗？还是不行？
可以。
可以。
不要，这不就视频。
哦，行。好，好，谢谢啊。好好。Well, that, folks, was the Communist Party's headquarters in Wuhan from the 1920s, which features a number of prominent members of the Communist Party. It wasn't the place I was planning on visiting, but it tells much of the same story, how the nationalists and the communists were working together to try and unify the country against the warlords, and then they were betrayed by Chiang Kai-shek, who unleashed kind of a purge on Communist Party members. I believe it's kind of like the Shanghai Massacre, but someone will correct me if I'm wrong on that one, but certainly there was a falling out and a lot of bloodshed. So yeah, very much the same kind of content I was expecting at the other place, which we couldn't get into because it was being renovated. So yeah, sadly we couldn't take video in there, but took a few pictures. It was free to get in. Guard was friendly enough and helped me register, seeing as I wasn't able to do it on my phone. So happy days, but now it's time for lunch. 有炒粉吗？
有炒面，
炒面可以。
牛肉的、羊肉的，
牛肉的吧？
牛肉的。
多少钱啊
22块，
几多
22。
支付宝到账22元。
Well, that's what a 22 kwai plate of beef noodles looks like. When I say 22 kwai, it feels expensive, but then you translate it or convert it into American dollars, like $3, which seems pretty cheap, but I'm not in America, so can't compare. Not bad. One thing I forgot to mention about today. It's a Sunday, but it's a working day. Why is it a working day on a Sunday? Because it was a public holiday on Thursday. A one-day public holiday. But they give you 3 days off. It was Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Now Saturday is already a day off, so you don't have to pay that one back. But because you got Friday off, you have to make up for it. You kind of owe a bit of compensation. So you have to work Sunday to make up for the Friday you had off. For me, that's a weird system. In New Zealand, a one-day public holiday is a one-day public holiday. But they like to connect the days together so people have actually got a chance to go out and do something, because if you've only got one day off, you're probably just going to stay around your house. But if you got 3 days, you might actually go out and travel, maybe spend a bit of money. Did a police car get a ticket? But yeah, if the 3-day holiday had fallen at a different time and you'd had the 1 day off and then 2 working days off, you'd have to make up 2 days as compensation. So, I mean, I guess it kind of makes sense because you get 3 days off in a row, which, as I said, is nice if you want to go somewhere and do something. But trust me, I've worked here before, many years ago, and it sucks to know you've got to go to work on a Sunday.